hearing. Thank you for joining us in this hybrid meeting format. Anyone wishing to access the meeting can do so by watching the live stream available on our website, the broadcast on Comcast Channel 21, or by following the instructions listed for this meeting on the public webcast and meeting materials webpage. There are 3 public hearings on tonight's agenda. Please note that members of the public who sign up to testify may speak only on the topic that is the subject of the stated hearing. For those wishing to testify during any of the public hearings, please fill out a request to speak form available on the city's public webcast and meeting materials webpage if you haven't already done so. These request to speak forms will be used to generate the order of speakers and correctly enter the speakers' names into the public record. We'll accept request to speak forms until 5:35. For those joining the meeting by phone who wish to provide testimony and are unable to complete the request to speak form online, press *9 and the last 3 digits of your phone number will be added to the speaker's queue. We don't have many people in the audience, so I'm not thinking that the code of conduct is a big issue. But as a reminder, we ask people to maintain a respectful silence and feel free to signal your approval by waving your hands. Additionally, we support anyone who is ill or who have had close contact to others who are able to join meetings remotely, and we only have very few people in the audience. So I think anyone who's not feeling ill is probably already tuning in remotely. So with that, I will now open a public hearing on an ordinance vacating a portion of East 5th Avenue located within the boundaries of the Platte Town Run. And Manager, would you please introduce the topic?
Thank you, Mayor. The Eugene Urban Renewal Agency has requested vacation of a small portion of an undeveloped plat, specifically a small corner of the East 5th Avenue right-of-way. The Urban Renewal Agency filed the request for vacation related to the City Council's approval of the Town Run subdivision located in the downtown riverfront property. The right-of-way, an undeveloped portion of East 5th Avenue, was created with the original plat of Eugene City in 1852, but never developed, and as a result, the vacation requires City Council approval. The applicant has requested the vacation to facilitate preparing the project for redevelopment as part of the downtown riverfront project.
So thank you. As mentioned, this item is a public hearing on a proposed ordinance of the vacation of an undeveloped portion of East 5th Avenue located within the boundaries of the plat of Town Run. The City Council's role in this process is to approve with modifications, or deny the application. Do any councilors need to disclose any bias, conflicts of interest, ex parte communications, or abstentions pursuant to EC 9.7065? I am not seeing any hands raised. So I guess we can just move forward. Testimony presented at this public hearing should be directed toward the applicable approval criterion at Eugene Code section 9.8725 or other criteria that the speaker believes apply to the decision. The full text of the approval criterion is available in the findings attached to the AIS for this public hearing. The failure of anyone to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the City Council and parties an opportunity to respond will preclude appeals on that issue. For this public hearing, speaking order will follow the requirements laid out in Eugene Code section 9.7075(1). The applicant and proponents, those in support; 2, those with a neutral position; and 3, those opposed. And I guess now I need to gavel it. I now open the public hearing. Let's see. I guess I'm turning, do I still have to, the applicant is the City of Eugene. Oh, let me read this part. The applicant is the City of Eugene and has chosen not to provide testimony. So we will now hear from those who have signed up to testify on this topic. And I turn to Sarah. Can you please share the list of speakers on the screen and announce the first speakers?
We have no testimony submissions. Nobody has signed up to testify.
Okay. So we don't need to go through all of this, and I'm assuming are there any questions that counselors have of staff? Seeing none, at this time, I will close the public hearing, and unless there are any objections from the council, I will close the record for this item.
or any objections from Jeff Gepper's cat.
All right, the public hearing and record are now closed. Okay, as a reminder, deliberations and possible action are scheduled for November 14th, 2022. We're now ready for our second public hearing, an ordinance concerning multiple unit property tax exemptions and amending section 2.946 of Eugene Code 1971. And again, City Manager, would you please introduce the topic?
Thank you, Mayor. This public hearing is for an ordinance to amend the multiple unit property tax exemption. I'm going to call it MUPD from here on out. Section of the Eugene Code by replacing references to the state's adopted energy codes, which were recently changed. In order for the MUPD approval criteria to align with the currently adopted energy codes, the references to the outdated energy code must be updated whenever the state adopts a different code. And just as a reminder, approved MUPD projects are required to achieve energy efficiency 10% better than what is required by the baseline energy code.
Okay, thank you. I now open the public hearing and I turn again to Sarah. If can you please share the list of speakers on the screen?
Thank you, Mayor. We have no speakers signed up to speak on this topic.
All right. So let's scroll down. So I now close the public hearing. Are there any questions or comments from councilors? Councilor Groves.
Thank you, Mayor. For staff, I just wanted to clarify on the 10% additional energy efficiency. It doesn't specify what that entails, correct? That's up to the developer to propose how they are going to get to the 10%.
Yes.
Councilor, were you able to hear that response?
No, what was?
You say yes. Yeah, correct.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? All right. Thank you. We're finished with that. We'll move on to our third public hearing on a set of proposed land use code amendments to update the city's clear and objective standards and procedures related to the development of housing. The proposed land use code amendments that are the subject of this public hearing were drafted in response to a remand from the Oregon Land Use Board of Appeals. Please note that the City Council will continue to accept written testimony following the close of the public hearing and up to action on this item. Please feel free to submit your remarks in writing as well as any other written testimony to the email or mailing address provided on the public notice for this item, and your testimony will be provided to the council. If you would like to receive future notices about the proposed land use code amendments, please provide your name and mailing address. And again, I turn to City Manager to introduce the topic.
Thank you, Mayor. This one's kind of a long intro. Tonight, the Eugene City Council is holding a public hearing on the Clear and Objective Update Ordinance, which has been revised to address a remand by the Oregon Land Use Board of Appeals. As a reminder, the Clear and Objective Update Ordinance adopted by the City Council in April of 2021 was intended to improve the city's ability to accommodate housing on lands available within our current urban growth boundary, continue to provide a clear and objective path to approval for subdivision, partition, site review, planned unit development, and conditional use permit applications necessary for the development of housing, and to guide future housing development in a way that reflects our community's values. The proposed ordinance that is the subject of tonight's public hearing is substantially the same as the Clear and Objective Update Ordinance adopted by the City Council in April of 2021, except that it has been updated to address the remand by the Land Use Board of Appeals and includes minor updates for consistency with the recently adopted middle housing code amendments. A full explanation of the updates made to the Clear and Objective Update Ordinance is included as Attachment A to your AIS. The updates are also highlighted in blue in the ordinance language, included as Attachment B to your AIS.
Thank you. Testimony presented at this public hearing should be directed toward the applicable approval criteria or other criteria that the speaker believes apply to the decision. The applicable approval criteria for this proposed land use code amendment are from the Eugene Code section 9.8065, which generally states, 1, the proposed land use code amendment must be consistent with applicable statewide planning goals as adopted by the Land Conservation and Development Commission. 2, the proposed land use code amendment must be consistent with applicable provisions of the comprehensive plan and applicable adopted refinement plans. And 3, In the case of establishment of a special area zone, the proposed land use code amendment must be consistent with EC 9.3020 criteria for establishment of an S special area zone. I'll now open the public hearing and turn to Sarah for the list of speakers.
Thank you, Mayor. We do not have anybody signed up to speak to this topic.
All right, well, that makes that a short public hearing. I will now close the public hearing. However, as I stated prior to the public hearing, the City Council will continue to accept written testimony following the close of the public hearing and until action is taken. You may submit written testimony to the email or mailing address provided on the public notice for this item, and your written testimony will be provided to the council. If you would like to receive future notices about the proposed land use code amendments, please provide your name and mailing address with your written testimony. Are there any questions or comments from council? Was that you,
Yeah.
Councilor Keating?
Thank you. If I could jump ahead to attachment B, Mayor, page 14 of 39, the ordinance in question. It's a question for our city manager. The table in regards to tree preservation and mitigation, table 9.6885, subsection 2D, indicates that there's a minimum tree preservation percentage threshold within the South Hills area between 500 feet and 900 feet elevation. We're at the top of a hill. It's rather difficult to get up and down on a bike. We get up on a bike. We're just above 400 feet on that hill. And I'm wondering if the 500 feet and 900 feet elevation marker as indicated in our AIS is both consistent and applicable with statewide goals, or if these elevation indicators are unique to Eugene.
Yeah. I'm going to ask Althea Sullivan to answer that question if she can.
I am happy to answer that question. And hi, for those watching and those that don't know me, my name is Althea Sullivan. I'm a senior planner with the city's planning division. Those 500 and 900 feet markers come from our adopted South Hills study plan. I don't believe there's any direct tie from either of those two numbers to one of the statewide planning goals. Those are in there because we have a locally adopted refinement plan that uses those numbers to distinguish different elevation areas.
So if we were to reduce that number, one could make an argument that we would be protecting more trees in the South Hills. Is that an accurate assessment?
I think that, and I see Lauren has turned on her camera, so she may have comments. With the South Hills plan being an adopted and locally recognized plan, we that 500 feet is something that has been vetted. If we were to change that to something like 400 or 300 feet elevation, in one of those instances, we may actually begin to bump into challenges within our own adopted policies or other statewide planning goals that I'm not aware of. And feel free, Lauren, if you have anything else to add there.
I would just add, Councilor Keating, just to be clear that there's nothing in the tree preservation table that staff is recommending be changed in response to the remand, or it's the same thing that council adopted in April 2021. So although council could choose to amend the ordinance, if that's what council wants to do, that the tree preservation piece of it is not something that staff has proposed changes to in response to the remand. And I just wanted to be clear about that. That is provided for context and is not something that is being proposed to be changed.
Okay, thank you. If it's not being proposed to be changed now, what levers, if any, allow for council to, with staff, to look at this and review it in 6 months to a year to have a larger conversation about tree preservation?
Whether you look specifically at this or not, we do have a standing motion already to come back with urban forestry work session. So that would be the next place where you would start talking about tree preservation.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. If there are no other questions or comments, I'm seeing none. That is our last item of business. Thank you all. We are adjourned.